A question I get a lot is, what would I do if I was still living in America today, but I knew deep down inside that I really wanted to live abroad? Because when people see me living abroad, they think it's something that happened all of a sudden. But the truth is, living abroad starts years before you ever book the flight and get on the plane. So if I were still living in the US right now and I were thinking about living abroad, the first thing that I would start tackling would be debt. Debt is the number one thing that is going to make it hard for anybody to live abroad. If you don't have any space between your paycheck and the things that you have to pay out every month, i.e. expenses, credit card debt, mortgages, student loans, it's going to really be hard for you to begin to put away what I call opportunity money to travel the world. So debt is the number one thing I would tackle. It's something that we tackled many years before we decided to move abroad. Once we were debt free, except for our house, it was one of the most liberating feelings I could ever imagine, because you grow up in your early 20s thinking, okay, you get the house, you get the cars, you get the all the different appliances for the house, and sometimes you put those things on credit card debt, and you got car loans and things like that. And then by the time you realize that all of it was actually a debt trap, you're already in it. So when we got to the point when we were debt free except for our house, it was one of the most liberating feelings ever. The next thing that I would tackle would be definitely creating a moat between your 9-to-5 income and your travels abroad. So how I would do that would be basically creating additional income outside of your 9-to-5. One of the easiest places to start doing that is by creating a YouTube channel. And while YouTube is not for everybody, I do not think everybody needs to start a YouTube channel. I do think it is a great platform and opportunity to earn some extra cash. Now, don't think that you're going to come into YouTube in 30 days or 90 days or even a year and be making 6 figures on YouTube. That is just unrealistic. It takes between 2 and realistically 5 years for your YouTube channel to really take off. So if living abroad is something that you want to do and you're looking to create some extra income, trust me, you have some interesting things that you could be sharing, but make sure you do the research to figure out what niches and what topics are going to actually pay top dollar. Just make sure you do the research. You could also look at creating digital products, which is another thing that you can do in addition to your YouTube channel. Once you start sharing a lot of information about something that is helpful to someone, they'll let you know that they want you to create digital products, because they'll begin asking you for additional training, additional time with you to pick your brain. They'll ask you to create courses. They'll ask you to create resources for whatever it is the topic that you're talking about, whether it's travel guides or whether it's debt trackers. Creating digital income is also one of those things that you could do. Another thing that you could begin looking at is becoming a landlord. If you have property in your family that maybe you inherited and maybe you're not using it, or maybe you're thinking about moving abroad and you have your own home and you're thinking maybe you should just sell the home, that is definitely a great question to ask. Should you keep your property or should you sell your property? But if you want to have a recurring income, having that rent coming in every month from your property in the US is definitely a way for you to begin creating some income outside of your job, especially once you move abroad. Another income that you could create or revenue stream could be through selling products. A lot of people are buyers and sellers. They go and they buy things for pennies on the dollar and then they sell that. There are so many marketplaces that you can sell stuff on, whether it's Facebook Marketplace, Etsy, Shopify. You can start your own business by buying things at lower prices and then selling them just below what the original or regular price is, because everybody's looking for a deal. Another suggestion could be trading. That's definitely a way for you to multiply your money. If you get yourself in a position where you do have a little bit of surplus money at the end of your paycheck after you've done your regular long-term investments, learning how to short-term trade could be another way for you to bring in revenue. And it's actually fun if you learn and you take the time to be prudent and disciplined and strategic and also profitable. Finances are honestly the biggest barrier to moving abroad, whether it's having debt, which will keep you from being able to move abroad, or not having or making enough money to be able to finance a life abroad. So those are the two places that you want to start looking at: paying down that debt and then also making more money. You can also begin looking at minimizing your lifestyle, the expensive lifestyle, taking a look at where can you actually cut back. So if you have 2 cars, maybe going to 1 car. If you have 3 cars, maybe selling 1 and going to 2 cars. It could be taking 1 less vacation a year. It could be eating at home a little bit more. It could be not upgrading on appliances and maybe learning how to fix something instead of actually replacing that thing. If the refrigerator goes out, maybe learning how to replace or fix or repair that refrigerator or dishwasher or washing machine. All of those little things count because we know how much appliance repairs cost. Learning how to live with less, not in a way where you feel like you are living impoverished, but in a way where you begin saying, let me begin to dial it back a little bit and see how much I can actually save by dialing back these areas. And that can be something as simple as doing your own hair and nails a few times a year, or even just altogether going with doing your own hair and nails. So the next thing that I would start thinking about is building a portable income, an income that would allow me to have geo arbitrage. And geo arbitrage is simply being able to live in another country, but reap the benefits of earning an income in, say, a country like the US. So the kinds of businesses that work like that are remote income. So when we were living in Da Nang, Vietnam, we actually ran into a young man at breakfast, and he was actually working abroad. So we were having breakfast, he was having breakfast, and he called over to us and he said, "Are you guys from the States?" And we said, "Yes." And we said, "How about you?" And he said, "Yes." And so he was there with his computer, he was eating his breakfast, and we got to know him a little bit more. And he said he's actually out of Texas. And what he did is he took all of his things, he put them in storage, he rented out his place, and then he is now living in Da Nang, Vietnam, and he is working remotely. So during the day, he's working. It's daytime for him. He works 3rd shift in the US, which is 1st shift in Da Nang, Vietnam. So in the morning, he gets up and he works his regular US nighttime job during the day while he's living in Vietnam. So looking for a way to work outside of the US, either through a remote job or even an online business. We had met a guy, he was doing e-commerce. This was when we were in Bangkok. My husband wound up asking him, was he a trader? Because he had these 3 computer screens, 1 in the middle and 2 on the side. So my husband thought he was a day trader, but he actually said he did e-commerce. Another thing you could do is freelance or consultation work, which is another thing that we do for our other channel, where we help people relocate or just travel and visit Kenya. And so those are things you can do at your own leisure, on your own time, on your computer. A lot of our clients, we meet with them through computer. So it's very, very easy, and they work around our schedule. And then the other thing that I talked about earlier was digital products. That's something that you do not have to be in the US to do that. You can sell digital products from anywhere, and it's sleep coin because you make it when you're asleep, when you're up. You don't have to actually be at your computer to make digital product sales. So living abroad doesn't require you stop earning money. It just requires you learn how to earn money differently. The next thing I would do is change how I travel. What I would begin doing is I would begin taking mini vacations that would allow me to really see what it would be like to live abroad. So when my husband and I were getting ready to live abroad, what we started doing was prioritizing vacations and travel that was outside of our time zone. So we lived on the East Coast, and then we were prioritizing travel on the West Coast because we wanted to see how it would feel to work in different time zones. And that was like one of the first steps. We spent about a year traveling around like the West Coast areas, trying to figure out, okay, what would life be like working on a different time zone? The other thing we began doing was when we would go to these places, we would try not to live like a tourist. We would try to go grocery shopping in those areas and see what it was like to be able to cook in those areas. We also began to immerse ourselves in the community to see, okay, if we were living in this particular area, like what would it feel like? What would it be like? So we made sure to prioritize getting around the city, getting around town. We would visit Chicago. We would take the train around. We would see how to use like local transportation. And so that kind of helped us when we began like living abroad. When we moved to Bangkok, it was easy for us to just hop on the train. So testing those things out is going to make it a lot easier before you move to that country because you'll feel more comfortable. And you'll be able to get over that anxiety, because there is a little bit of anxiety that comes with being in a new place and then trying to navigate your way. When we would arrive in somewhere like San Francisco or Chicago, we would actually take the train, the air train, from the airport to our hotel. And that was our training ground for figuring out if, when we landed on the ground in another country, how comfortable we would feel getting from the airport in a new country where we didn't know anything and didn't know anybody, and making it to our accommodations. And what surprised me most when we actually made that move to live abroad, how easy it was for us to just land in a country and not really feel lost, because we had already been practicing when we were in places like, say, New Orleans, or like I said, when we were in Vegas or we were in Chicago. We did a lot of traveling around the US, and we were just kind of winging it, just picking new places that we had never been. So we were able to get over that kind of mental anxiety. So when we got to a country, it was really, really easy. Like, we're never nervous when we're in a country. We go through immigration, we figure it out, we read the signs. And that's one of the things. As long as you can read signs and ask questions, you'll figure your way out through any country. Another thing, and this is big, I would start doing is simplifying my life. I talked about selling cars earlier. And my thing is, if you have extra cars, like if you had bought cars for the kids, or you had an extra car when you were maybe working outside of the house. When my husband and I got to the point when we were just kind of at home a little bit more, we started really downsizing. We sold his work car. There was another car that we sold, and we had just the one car, and the both of us was using that car because before we left, we were both working from home. We were both building revenue streams that were outside of a 9-to-5. Even before that, I really kind of got on this minimalist kick where I didn't want to have things that caused clutter, because I felt like clutter was causing stress. And so I began paring down and only really trying to keep things that were going to add value to my life. So when we got to the process where we were getting close to leaving and we decided to sell all of our belongings, it was really, really easy. I thought it was going to be hard because over the years prior to our move, I had began paring down things. But when I realized, okay, now that chapter of my life when I needed all those things that I had in my house, I don't need those things anymore. It was easy to let them go because I had already begun simplifying my life. So I would definitely start looking around your house. And this is even when you can start selling stuff. We sold so many things on Facebook Marketplace so quickly. And then you also got to understand there is a weight of accumulated things. When you have a bunch of things and you have to figure out where to put all of these things, sometimes even that can mentally bog you down and keep you from making that decision you need to make to move. And then also you want to start dialing back your emotional connection to your possessions. In my last video where I talked about we sold everything, I thought that I was going to feel a certain kind of sadness about selling a lot of things that were personal to me and that meant a lot to me, but it actually felt free. And I talk about the story there where I was selling things that were like wedding gifts or things that I had had for a while or things that I thought, okay, this is what made life comfortable for us. And I really realized that those things really weren't for me anymore. They weren't going to fit the life that I wanted. And so you have to really realize, like, is the big 4-door refrigerator worth it? Is all of these upgraded appliances worth it? Is it worth the freedom that I am sacrificing or not able to obtain because I have these things? So it's really something to think about if living abroad is something that you want to do. And this is not about frugality. This is not about struggle and like sacrifice where you are feeling impoverished. That's not what this is about. This is about making an intentional decision to say, I want something different out of life. And it might not be all the bells and whistles of the American dream that I thought I wanted. And that's okay. And to let those things go is okay. And what you'll wind up realizing is that freedom is often lighter than people expect. And when you start like letting go of things, you give yourself an opportunity to receive other things. Another thing that I would start building earlier is a confidence to navigate the world. You can do that by watching videos like mine here on this channel or our other travel channel. But building that confidence to travel the world is going to come with watching other vloggers and full-time travelers and slow-time travelers, retired travelers who are actually doing the very thing you feel like you want to do. It's even going to come with taking those shorter trips and navigating airports. It's going to come with you going to a new community or neighborhood and walking around and seeing what the scene is. It's going to be with you going and traveling and trying new foods in new states and new cities and getting to know the culture. Like you guys know, when you go to New Orleans, Louisiana, there's a culture there. When you go to New York City, there's a culture there. When you go to Chicago, there's a culture there. When you go out west, there's a culture. When you go to somewhere like Kansas City, it's a culture. And learning that culture is what's going to help you to feel more comfortable when you step outside of the US into another country and begin to immerse yourself in those cultures. When you're traveling around, give yourself permission to meet people, to be open, to be friendly, to learn about different backgrounds, to ask questions. This is really going to help you to build that global confidence before you actually step outside of the country. And you don't have to have all the confidence right away. As you begin to travel, that confidence is going to continue to grow. Every time you go to a new place, it's going to grow and it's going to grow and it's going to grow. And it's going to be an experience that I can't even really put into words for you. But you know what it is. You know how it is when you go on a vacation and then you come back and you're like, oh man, that was so nice. It's like that. It's that feeling, but even magnified, where you go to another country and you experience the food and you experience the people and you experience the music and the scents and the sights and the sounds, and even the air in different countries is different. And as you begin to move in these spaces, your confidence will definitely grow. So living abroad does not begin when you board the plane. Living abroad actually begins when you start shifting the way you do things in order to enable yourself to take that leap to live abroad. It starts with those small decisions 10, 15 years before you ever hop on the plane. So my question would be to you, what small decisions are you going to make today to begin to live intentionally and to begin to walk in the life that you believe you ought to be living? If living abroad is something that you've been thinking about, tell me about it in the comments section below. Let me know what country you would choose and what exactly is holding you back right now. And if you're interested in building a financially free life and designing a life with more flexibility, subscribe to Empty Nest Finance.